Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines, coming at you with a Thursday recap episode with Tokyo and Beijing wrapping up in the middle of the week. We actually dropped our normal Tuesday episode, which we had Tristan Schoolkid on. If you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it. He's going to be a name you start to hear pretty often on tour. Great player, awesome guy. It was a fun conversation, so check that out. All right, Aiden. I don't know about you, but it was kind of nice to not have an Alcaraz Sinner final this week so we can get some other players, some fresh faces into the mix here. Because I'm kind of over seeing them in the final. I mean, what do you think? Do you wish that they played the same tournament, or were you also kind of over the Sinner Alcaraz matchup?
Well, I don't think I'm over it yet, just because it is such a high level of tennis each time they play. But it also is like if they were in the same tournament, you at least would have seen like some new faces getting the chance to actually win a tournament. Because this way, it almost felt like at the beginning of the tournament was already a foregone conclusion. Like Sinner and Alcaraz felt guaranteed to win both tournaments, and that's how it ended up going. So maybe if they'd been in the same tournament, we would have seen someone else kind of rise to the occasion in whichever one they didn't play in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was nice to see Fritz and Tien in the final too, because even though I do love this rivalry, I do want to see who's going to step up and who's going to challenge these guys and who's actually, maybe worthy of it. But it still seems like these guys are just so dominant.
Yeah, but I just feel like imagine if they'd instead been a Fritz versus Tien final. That might have been more interesting to see and have that Alcaraz Sinner matchup in the other tournament.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a great point. So let's jump in here. Let's start with some upsets, as we always do, from both the tournaments. First one on here is Runa. He goes down to Brooksby in the Tokyo quarterfinal. So I think this is a bad loss for Runa, but you can't discount Brooksby that much because he went from outside the top 1,000 in the beginning of this year, 2025, after coming back from his suspension and then his wrist injury to now 57th in the live rankings. So, can we expect another like top 40 ranking like we saw in 2022 from him, where I think his peak was around 33?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a positive trend for him. I mean, you look at how he's played this year. He has some nice wins. He beat FAA in Indian Wells. He beat Tommy Paul and Tiafo in Houston. And then obviously Kier beating Runa. Also got that title in Houston and made the final in Eastbourne where he lost to Taylor Fritz. So a lot of solid results, some big wins. And I just think it's going to come down to that consistency, right? He has the potential. Can he start making it so that he wins the first couple rounds at every tournament and he defends his ranking a little bit more rather than just being like this shock guy making a run here.
Yeah, definitely. I think we will start to see him personally. I think he's going to he'll continue to fly under the radar, but I personally do think that we'll start to see him creep up in the rankings. I don't know if he'll break the top 20, but I think he'll be in that like 20 to 35 region where he was last time.
Yeah, and at least be like a threat to make a run at a tournament.
Yeah, definitely. And then next up here on the upsets, Tien taking out Musetti in the Beijing quarterfinal, and then goes on to take out Medvedev in the semis. So I want to talk about the Medvedev win here because there was a lot of controversy going on. So it seemed to me like Medvedev just kind of tossed in the towel, gave up, but he was suffering from some cramps, and I think even got a code violation for it, right?
Yeah. So the I think the umpire said like you're not giving your best effort pretty much. And then Medvedev got really mad because he was like, no, I'm just cramping. I can't do anything out here. And he's like, would you rather, I think he like said, would you rather I retire the match? Because essentially in his mind, that's what he was looking at, right? Either he plays with a cramp and does his best, but can't do that much, or he just retires the match. He ended up retiring it in the end, but was kind of a little bit of a choke still, I think, for Medvedev, to be honest. But the interesting thing about this is you talk about him taking out Tien taking out Musetti in the quarterfinals as well. Musetti also retired. So maybe it's just something about Tien's playing style. He's able to just drain the energy out of his opponents.
Yeah, that is funny. Wow. So going back to Medvedev, I do want to eat my words a little bit here because I was very hard on him in the beginning, but the way Medvedev reacted towards the umpire still very disrespectful and isn't a great example because he he was very rude. He was telling him, "Hey, don't talk. Who's talking to you? Did I say you could speak?" And then he was saying that all the umpires now are kind of out to get him, and then after the U.S. Open, he's been good. But I will say that I think the ATP actually reviewed the code violation and revoked it
Yeah.
because, yeah. So I mean, he was giving out his best effort out there. His best effort just wasn't, I guess, good enough for that referee. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is like, what can you really do if a guy is just losing and is hurting? He could. Would you rather see him try to continue playing the match, or just do like what Djokovic did in Australia this year and like play one set and then just be like, "Nah, I'm done now." I feel
Yeah, I
like
think
you at least want him to try, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll get to the point where, yeah, as long as they try, but you can't go a whole set of that because it's just no fun for either person.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you'll end up kind of seeing like what happened with Dimitrov last year. Remember when he played
Hmm.
Tiafo in the U.S. Open, and it was like you could just tell that he was done and he just had nothing left.
Yeah, he was basically just doing it for the fans who probably spent an arm and a leg on those tickets.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, next up here on the upsets, Manarino beating Bublik, and he did it based on pure defense too. He beat him 3-2, just an extremely defensive style here from Manarino. It did not do anything special, just kind of was a backboard and kept the ball in play. But I do want to talk about Bublik here. So he wins the title in Hangzhou last week, and then he exits first round here in Beijing. I want to know, do you think Bublik has what it takes to be a consistent top player on tour, or do you think that we'll just continue to see these drastic swings where he's winning titles and then first round exiting the next week?
Well, one thing I actually do want to point out about Bublik is he does have the second most titles on tour this year, with four behind Alcaraz, who I think has eight now. But that kind of shows that he has the ability to put a week together of wins and get it done. Granted, some of those it feels like he has gotten a little bit lucky, but then you look on the other side of the spectrum in Hala, he beat like three top 25 guys, including Sinner, uh, to win the title there. So he has that top level for sure. And I do think he has what it takes. He's played at like a top 10 level, I think, for the second half of the year. It's just he's not in the top 20 right now because or he's not in the top 10 right now because at the beginning of the year he wasn't doing as well. I just think what he may still have these off performances. I think it's just about for him getting more of the consistency. Like, okay, do well in three tournaments in a row. Even if you have one tournament where you don't do as well, that doesn't matter as much because you've strung together a few weeks in a row.
Yeah, I was gonna say it gets pretty subjective. Like obviously he's having a good year. Like what you said, second most titles on tour, four titles.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that's a good year for him? Like
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think he
100%.
doubled his titles for his career.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me that he's not ranked as high. Like he's not a top 10 player. That's the thing. It's the consistency aspect.
Yeah, but I think that's also like you look at where he was earlier in the year. I think he played in like he may have even won a couple of challengers early on in the year, but the fact that he was even playing in challengers shows that coming into the year he just wasn't necessarily at the same level. Because I remember at the end of last year he was kind of on a downswing, and
Hmm.
now he's coming back on that upswing. But when you start that trough at the beginning of the year, it's hard to collect enough points. I think he's maybe 13th in the year to date rankings still, even with only having really a great performance in the last half of the year. I bet if you took a cutoff at like May or something and then just went from there, he probably is one of the top 10 players in the world.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because I didn't really factor in like the fact that I think he was about to quit tennis too. That's how much of a dark place he was in. So for him, he's still coming back. Like I think he's still rising. Um, Personally, I don't think he'll ever get to the top five. I think maybe top 10 if he keeps trending the way he is. But I love the guy as a player, and I think his play style is very fun and entertaining to watch. I just don't think that he's going to be consistent enough.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, I feel like if he can string together a couple of weeks and he might have a chance at his slam in a couple of years if he really is locked in.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned challengers earlier. I completely forgot that the Phoenix Challenger where he played Mutet, remember? And I think he was about to serve, and Mutet was like, "Wait, I'm not ready." He goes, "I don't give a shit," and then everyone in the crowd started laughing. So that's just the type of player he is. Like awesome to watch and very entertaining.
100%.
All right, last upset here. We got Kaboli beating Rublev. And while technically this is an upset, is this a paper upset where it's just a ranking upset where Rublev is a higher ranked player than Kaboli, but Kaboli is actually the better player here? What do you think?
I mean, I think based on the momentum of their careers right now, you'd say that Kaboli probably has a lot more confidence coming into this matchup. Rublev's in a little bit darker a place, like you were talking about with Bublik. He's on that downward part of his career right now. Not saying there can't be another upswing for Rublev, but he's not trending in the right direction right now. And I think that probably comes into this not being as big of an upset or not being as unexpected as it might seem on paper.
Yeah, I think Kaboli's hot right now. I know he was injured in the US Open, so I wasn't sure how he was gonna come back from that. And then played one match in Laver Cup and lost. So I wasn't thinking too much of it, but I truly think Kaboli's the better player right now.
Yeah, I think just in terms of like you look at where they're at, for sure, he's gonna have a lot more confidence in this matchup than Rublev.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so now let's break down the tournaments. Some big points here. Let's start with Tokyo. So I want to start out with Rude making the semis, and I want to know, do you think this is a successful tournament for him?
I think you have to say yes. Obviously, he's not going to be super happy about losing to Alcaraz again, but you look at it this way: he had a deep run, and then he forced Alcaraz to 3 sets, which not many people are able to do right now. I feel like that's a solid performance from him. And while he's going to be a little disappointed, it's I think overall definitely a solid job from him in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think he's at this point in his career where he may not be expecting titles, but I think for him, a semi run is something that he can leave the tournament with his head held high and then use it as momentum to go into Shanghai.
Yeah. I mean, we say this point in his career, but he did win a Masters 1000 tournament this year. I think it's
Yeah.
more like at this point in his career, not on clay.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. It's crazy. Went from, US Open final on hard court. That's wild. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. So what about Fritz? Fritz made the final here. He obviously didn't win. What do you think? Do you think that this is successful for him?
I think, unlike Rude, he's probably pretty unhappy with it. I mean, not only did he just beat Alcaraz at the Laver Cup, he is at a point where he still thinks he can be maybe one of those top three guys, right? I feel like Rude is probably a little bit further down. He's probably not even going to make Turin this year, not going to make the year-end finals. Whereas Fritz he's really trying to compete. Trying to be that third guy with Alcaraz and Sinner. Makes the final. He had a couple 3 setters. Didn't really have any tough matchups leading into this, and then gets beaten pretty handedly by Alcaraz. And it really kind of discounts that win he had at the Laver Cup a couple weeks ago because you look at that and then you look at when it's an actual ATP event for points and you see kind of the difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think Fritz is pretty pissed that he didn't win the title. I think he's coming in not thinking of anything less. It's title or bust. But anyway, yeah, I don't think it just goes to show I don't think the Laver Cup win was as legitimate as what should be counted as a head to head. I mean, first of all, it's not even a three setter. I think it's a third set tiebreak, 10-point tiebreak. It's team tennis. There's not as much pressure. So I think it would have been more of a statement if he followed it up, but clearly couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then we got Alcaraz. He wins the title here. He had an injury scare first match against Baez, but clearly didn't hinder him. I mean, I think the only scare he really had was Rude. Took a set off of him, but other than that, he didn't even drop a set. So just pretty unstoppable play for having a hurt ankle. But I wouldn't expect anything less from him.
Yeah. I think he maybe adjusted his style a little bit to try and shorten points and not drag it out and force some pressure onto that ankle. But I mean, it clearly worked pretty effectively. And you can see though that it was a serious injury because he did end up retiring from Shanghai after the tournament ended. Just kind of shows how serious it was.
Yeah, and it's too bad. I mean, I think in Shanghai, since we didn't get the Sinner Alcaraz matchup here, I was fine with it because there were two ATP 500s going on. But now with the 1000 bigger stage, more consolidation, just one tournament, I kind of wish that they were playing against each other. But I guess you just can't have it all.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, hopefully he comes back here. All right, let's move on to Beijing. So for me, the biggest headline here in Beijing was the qualifier, Learner Tien making a finals run. And fun fact here, at 19 years old, he is the second youngest China Open finalist after Nadal.
Oh wow, yeah. So how old was Nadal at that point? Do you know?
Yeah, he was actually also 19, but he was
Okay.
just born earlier.
Yeah, earlier on in
Um,
the year.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Tien stacked up some nice wins here too. He took down Cerundolo, Kaboli, Musetti, Medvedev, and I know we already mentioned this earlier in the upsets, but just very impressive that he was able to come back against Medvedev because that was not looking good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what you have to say about Medvedev, whether it was kind of a choke or not, you still got to give that credit to Tien for not just falling apart and crumbling in the situation when it would have been very easy for him to just fold it up and walk away and lose the match.
Exactly. He stayed in there. And then we got Deminar. I want to ask you this, Aiden. Do you think that Deminar kind of maxed out his tournament? Like he did the best he possibly could after running into Sinner in the semis? I mean, he
Yeah.
is 0 and 11 after all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's pretty tough for him to beat Sinner at this point. He did split sets with him, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, he did. He's getting closer. I
yeah,
think
it's just hasn't quite pushed it over the edge yet. I feel like this definitely was sort of the max you could have expected from him.
I know it's pretty funny. I was looking at their head to head and looking at the scores, and I saw the last time was 3 sets. I'm like, oh, so he gave him 3 sets. Then I looked closer. I was like, oh, it was the US Open. It was still straights.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, and then this one, we got this hyped up matchup right here. We had Zverev Medvedev quarterfinal. Medvedev got it done, and he is 14 and 7 against Zverev. So these two have played each other 21 times. I think this is the most amount that any two players have played each other like actively on tour right now. I mean, Nadal Djokovic have played 60, which is insane.
Yeah. No, so Medvedev is 14-7 now.
Yeah, he's 14 and 7 now, including the most recent win.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the wild thing is that it was 9-7, like before Medvedev's current streak. Like he it was a close matchup and Medvedev's kind of just pulled away.
Yeah, it was. It was tight. I don't know what it is. I don't know why Zverev can't beat Medvedev right now, but I love it. I just think the fact that Medvedev has all that real estate in Zverev's mind, and then even in break point, they kind of featured their match, and Zverev was just, I forget what tournament it was, but it was on clay. Medvedev beat him, and
Oh
Zverev
yeah,
was,
it was
when
in
was it?
Rome, right? Wasn't that
Rome.
the year that Medvedev won it
It must have been, but Zverev was
and
just,
he hit that dance?
yeah. He was so shook in the locker room after, like crying, throwing his shit. Like just, I feel like
Yeah.
Medvedev loves that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of funny because you would think in general Zverev's career is like it's not at a high point, but it's like he's still top five in the world, and Medvedev's been on this downward trajectory, and yet he's still Medvedev gets it done against Zverev.
Still got it. And then not only does Medvedev own Zverev, but Fritz owns Zverev too. So I feel like Zverev's just not having great matchups recently.
Alcaraz owns Zverev,
Oh,
Sinner
oh
owns
man.
Zverev. Who does
So
Zverev own?
I don't know. We need to check on that. If you know, comment because I'm curious. But before we move on, I did mention that Djokovic and Nadal have played each other 60 times. How many times do you think Alcaraz and Sinner have played or will play each other, like over their career? Do you think they'll beat that or no?
I feel like that's so tough to beat that one, but yeah, it just feels early. I feel like it after like 2 years of them playing consistently in finals, we'll be able to be like, okay, this is going to happen for the next 10 years. But realistically, how many times have they played each other at this point?
You know,
60 still feels pretty far away.
15 times.
15, okay.
All right, so they're, I
And
feel
how many
like,
years? When was the first time they played?
oh, good question. First time going back to 2021.
So over the last 5 years, essentially.
Yeah.
But it also probably has picked up significantly.
Oh, for sure.
So it's
For
probably like
sure.
they like in the last 2 years, how much have they played? Probably like 7 times.
Yeah, about half.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I
So I
feel
think they're
like
on pace, right?
just depends. It just depends how much they're able to sustain this level.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and also depends on if there's gonna be a third guy who's gonna come in
Yeah.
and rain on the parade.
Yeah, because because the big thing about it is like the reason there are so many matches between Nadal and Djokovic because they're like a lot of them are finals or semifinals. It's like
Yes,
you're
exactly.
yeah, if you're always in the latter like the back half of a tournament, you're much more likely to see uh those guys. But actually, I think if a third guy came along, it actually might make them more likely to play more times, right? Because if then it wouldn't have to be a final every time.
Yeah, they might be on the same side of the draw, you're saying.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking, I want to say Djokovic and Federer was around like 50, Djokovic Nadal or sorry, Federer Nadal was around 40. So I think Federer Nadal played actually the least amount of times.
I think he's 23-17, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Nadal Djokovic or Nadal Federer.
Yeah.
What's the Nadal Djokovic head to head?
It's so tight. I think it's
Let's see.
like 30.
31-29. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
isn't that crazy?
You know what's actually the shocking part is that you would think Nadal would have faded more, but if you go after 2016, Nadal has the head to head advantage.
What? I would have thought it would have been the opposite.
Exactly. No, that's what I was about to say. I was like,
Wow.
I wonder if Djokovic like brought it back at the end.
Yeah.
But the reason Djokovic has the advantage because they played 7 times in 2015 and 16, and Djokovic won every single time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All I'm assuming not on clay, right?
No, some of them were
Or
on clay.
some,
Roland Garros
jeez.
quarterfinal.
Ooh. Ooh.
He won 11 of 12 from 2013 to 2016.
Yes, he just went on a streak. So that must have been what prime Djokovic
I mean,
that
prime
time.
Djokovic is either 2011, 2015, as we've
Yeah.
established in our draft.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
But anyway, coming back to today, let's talk about the race to Turin because there have been some interesting updates. I feel like since we last checked in around the end of the U.S. Open, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, with Alcaraz pulling out of Shanghai, I'm pretty sure he's still securing that number one ranking, right?
I mean, I think he leads by like 2,500 points at this stage, so it'd be pretty difficult for Sinner to come back from that.
Yeah, and that's not even, we're just assuming Sinner wins Shanghai.
Exactly, exactly. You're like, well, if Sinner
Yeah.
wins Shanghai and then he wins Paris, then I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, right. But anyway, a couple other moves. We got the Demon. He moves up to 7, and Musetti drops to 8. Fritz swapped places with Shelton, moving up to number 5. Shelton moving down to number 6. Do you think that Shelton will stay in the top 8?
Well, I think it really depends what we see here in Shanghai, right? Like he's making his return, and whether or not he's healthy is going to be a big factor for how we project the rest of his season, right? If he comes back and he's still hurt and he loses first round, then we can't really have high expectations for him in Paris, in that end of the year indoor swing in Europe. I feel like this is going to be a big indicator of what we can expect from him.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. I don't want him to rush back. I'd rather him be fully 100% just because I think it'll be more beneficial to maybe not rush it and just kind of get in. But he is younger, so he does have that on his side that he will heal faster, hopefully.
Yeah, I just think he also is concerned. I think he wants to play in turn. I think he wants to make the year-end finals. And the more points you just allow to slip away by not playing, the less likely you are to make it.
Yep, definitely. And then we got Zverev moving up to number 3, Djokovic moving down to number 4.
Yeah, but he also does return here in Shanghai, so it'll be interesting to see whether there's any rust in that time. But then again, it's Djokovic. I feel like he's used to taking these hiatuses and then just showing up again.
I was gonna say, I think the hiatus is actually work in his favor. The older he gets, the more time off he takes, the better he comes back.
Yeah, true.
And then we got number 1 and 2. They're locked in, and you guys know who I'm talking about here. I don't even need to say it.
Yeah. But I also want to talk about those guys that are outside looking in, right? Because at number 9, we have Draper, but he's kind of, we can ignore him because he's out for the season. And then you have FAA who's returning here in Shanghai. And he's really the guy that I think is the only one really that could kick out either Deminar or Musetti, or I guess Shelton if Shelton falls that far. But FAA played really well, made that great run at the US Open. And I'm just hoping that rest that he took coming into this tournament was good for him and not a negative where he's going to come back with some sort of rust, because I feel like it would have been better, in my opinion, for him to continue with that momentum. He had such a positive run in the US Open, and that's got to be good mentally. But now we don't know whether he's going to carry that momentum anymore. But if you look below him in the race to Turin, 11 and lower, almost 1,000 points behind Musetti, who's in eighth. So it's going to be pretty hard for them to make a comeback unless they either win one of these last two Masters of the year or win like multiple other tourneys before the end of the year.
Yeah, I do like that FAA is this close because it's given him something to play for. I feel like the last couple of years he's been so low in the rankings, this hasn't even crossed his mind, but now he's finally getting back and it's really working out for him. So, like you said, just hoping he can continue the momentum. I'm not sure why he took the big break. Was he injured or just taking time off? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, but
Yeah, well,
yeah, I mean, he could be just trying to replicate 2022, right, where he made that three-peat on the indoor tournaments at the end of the year, and then that boosted him right into the year-end finals.
yeah, I would not be surprised if he did that. He's capable of it. I mean, he's done it
100%,
before.
100%. But alrighty, you ready to hop into segments here?
Yep, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What did you see this week?
So I want to break down the prize money between Tokyo and Beijing because it's pretty significant. I mean, both of these tournaments are 500s, but the prize money is completely different. So first, I'll start with Tokyo. Winner Alcaraz got 416,365 USDs. Finalists 224,000, semifinalists 119,000, and then quarterfinalists 61,000. Now listen to Beijing. Winner Sinner 751,075 USDs.
Jeez.
Yeah, finalist 400,000, semifinalists 215,000, and then quarterfinalists 110,000.
Okay, so
So
it's almost like the next step up. You essentially, right? It's like instead of the finalists getting 400,000 in Beijing, that's what the winner gets in Tokyo, and the semifinalist in Beijing gets 215 in Tokyo. It's like almost the same for the finalist.
yeah, no, exactly. I just realized that too. But I mean, crazy that there's that much more prize money in Beijing. And it kind of it puts players in a tough position, right? Because I think we've talked about this before. If you're looking at two tournaments to play in, I feel like as a lower ranked player, for example, Tristan Schoolkit, someone that, we talked to, he's on the cusp of like what, 195 in the world. Feel like you're trying to play for prize money, but you're also trying to get a good draw too. So I feel like for the higher ranked players who don't necessarily care too much about prize money, like Fritz, he is playing in Tokyo probably because he got a big appearance fee, so he's not as concerned about the money. But I feel like the lower ranked people, you're trying to play for money. I could be
Yeah,
wrong
I
too.
think it's a tough balance. I think when you talk about the money aspect, the balance is really like, okay, I might do better in Tokyo because there may be slightly less top players, but even if I do really well, there might be less prize money.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I think the economics of tennis are super interesting. So, yeah, just thought I'd mention that. What about you? What did you see this week?
I saw that Monfils announced that he's going to be doing his last dance in 2026. He's a former world number six, obviously, and he's just saying that he's going to retire after next season, not this year, but next season. And I just think that this type of announcement really makes sense for Monfils because his whole career he's kind of been that showman, and I feel like he's like, "Hey guys, curtain call. It's going to be my last year next year. Come out and see me before I'm gone." So just I think he's interesting way to announce this. I feel like most of the time it's guys who are like, "Hey, I'm retiring at the end of this year."
Yeah, or even like, hey, I'm retiring after this tournament. But
Exactly,
I
exactly.
don't know why. Somehow I just don't believe it. Because didn't he do a pump fake before?
Yeah, but I feel like this is like enough of a runway, right? He's
Yeah.
38, I think. So
Yeah. Yeah.
he's saying by the time I'm like 40, pretty much, I'm going to be retiring.
Crazy. He will be missed on tour. I still feel like we're seeing his name pretty frequently
100%.
like
Yeah.
going in deep in draws. But all right, what about bet of the week?
I'm going with Manarino plus 100 over Sarundalo. I feel like Manarino is a guy I completely counted out earlier this year, and then all of a sudden he just came back, played well last tournament, and he just beat Berrettini in Shanghai. And then on the other side, I feel like Sarundalo is a little bit more of a clay guy, so I'm going with Manarino here.
I like the Manarino play. I feel like he's always good for, a couple last kicks, some good upsets here.
Exactly. I mean, he just upset Bublik last week, right? So,
hmm
how about you? Who you go for?
I'm going with a crazy one. I'm going with a potential headhunt this week, which you know what that means. We
100%.
got Morojan plus 350 over Fritz. So hear me out. I know this sounds crazy, but I do have a method to my madness. Fritz just got hurt. He hurt his hip in Tokyo, and I'm not sure if he'll be ready for this match. I think he's still going to play, but I don't think he'll be 100%. Knowing Fritz, how competitive he is, he's not going to pull out. So I do think he will play. It's a 1,000, so there's a lot on the line. He's, like I said, I don't think he's pulling out. I think he's playing, but I don't think he's 100%. And then Marozsan, you know him. He is upset potential right here. And I just think he's going to be spamming that drop shot as he always does. And it's just going to make Fritz uncomfortable out there. I think he's going to move him more than Fritz would like to be moved, especially with a hip injury.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always game for a Morojan play. I feel like you said, he always has some sort of exciting match. I mean, even with Sinner, he lost to him this past week, but he still made the match exciting at some points. Problem is with Sinner, it's like a lot of the time he's just unbeatable.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah. How about match of the week? What'd you go for?
So I went kind of a classic. I went with Rude beating Berrettini 7-6, 6-2. And I say classic because honestly, I'm just happy to see both of these guys playing at a high level because they're both slam finalists that have kind of fallen off in the last couple years. And just to see them play great tennis, it was my match of the week. I love both these players. It was a decent match. I mean, it was a tight first set. Rude squeaked it out in the tiebreaker and then just kept the momentum going, took the second 6-2, won the match. But overall, there were some great points, great hands by both players too. And I just wanted to shout out Rude for his hustle because he played with a lot of heart out there. I felt like he was chasing everything down. There were some volleys that probably were winners that Berrettini hit to most people, but Rude was playing, with a lot of guts out there, and you could tell he did not want to lose that match. So overall, great. Just great to see.
Yeah. It's like a blast from the past, but not the
Exactly.
semi recent past, right? It's
Yeah,
like 2021, 2022. This would be like a really premier matchup. And now it's kind of just like a random one you'll see in the middle of a draw.
exactly. So to me, that it'll always carry weight seeing like a Rude Berrettini match, For the
100%.
people who are just starting to watch tennis now, they're probably like, oh, what the hell? That's not a good
Yeah.
match.
Berrettini, who's this guy?
Yeah, right. Still doesn't have a backhand. I thought it was pretty ironic that he sliced like every single backhand in the last rally of the first set and then finally hit a backhand and it went straight into the net, lost the first
He's
set.
like, okay, that's why I hit
Yep.
slices.
Yep, that is why. But anyway, what about you? What was your match of the week?
I'm going with Deminar taking down Rinderknecht in 3 sets. Rinderknecht kind of just dropped the first, was a little bit loose. Deminar, I feel like always is gonna jump on someone if they're not playing a high level. And then Rinderknecht kind of upped his game, upped the aggression in that second set, and played great, honestly. And Deminar had like one loose service game that Rinderknecht just took and took the set, but then he just couldn't carry it all the way to the finish line. Really tight third set, went to a tiebreak. Deminar actually had a match point before the tiebreak that Rinderknecht was able to save, but in the end, Deminar got it done, and just always fun to see a close Deminar match.
Yeah, that was a good one. I feel like the Deminar matches, they're either really boring or really exciting because he's known for just taking care of business. Like he'll go out there and he'll win pretty handily and he doesn't do anything crazy. Or you'll have him like third set tiebreaker, blowing a match point, but then coming back and winning. So just great, great to see.
I think what happens is like to play Deminar, you have to, if you want to beat him, you have to play with a level of aggression. And that's what happens in those really close matches is guys come out there, they're super aggressive. And if they're playing well, the match can be really close. Or they can beat him if you're like an Alcaraz or Sinner, right? If you play aggressive, those guys play aggressive against him and they destroy him. But then when guys come out and they're like, okay, I'm going to play within myself. I'm not going to go for anything too crazy. De Minaur's like, oh, okay, I can do that. And he'll just play within himself as well, and he'll get it done. And it won't necessarily be a super exciting match.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I was at that Deminar Altmaier, what was it, third round US Open match, and it was exciting. It went to a first set tiebreaker, but then after that, Deminar just kind of took care of him easily.
Yeah,
So
I
like
mean,
he's
I
known for
remember
doing
watching
that.
him
Hmm.
play who was it, Jari a couple years ago at the US Open, and it was like you didn't see anything crazy, I feel like, in that match. It was just like De Minaur was just a little bit better overall.
Yep, yes he was. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.